So the tires are actually set at a pretty relatively high pressure in the 60s, because with 37s, I mean 20-inch wheels, that is going to make it so you're going to be higher PSI slightly, but with 37s you'll typically be at, you know, somewhere in the... Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's going to be reviewing what I am dubbing as the GMC Sierra AT4 Goliath. First and foremost though, a huge shout out and thank you to the Provo Cadillac for giving me some time with this modified AT4. I'm going to include a link to their inventory in the description down below so you guys can check out what they have currently. And by the way, this one is available for sale for the time being if you're interested. If you have any questions whatsoever, just ask for Craig. And then on a side note, if you want to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. Let's get into it. Under the hood, we have the 6.6 liter Duramax diesel that goes through a 10-speed automatic transmission. It is good for 445 horsepower and then 910 pound-feet of torque, which is very important because, well, this has to move some pretty beefy tires. Now this video is mainly dedicated to the modifications on this truck because I think this is one of the best built, if not the best built, GMC Sierras on the planet. Like seriously, they did a fantastic job with the build, so we're going to kind of focus on that in today's video, but we'll go over some of the AT4 elements. So you get red tow hooks here with the AT4, which is actually really cool because it just kind of makes the truck look a little bit sportier. And then notice with the grille how it's darker in coloration, again to kind of go along with that sporty off-roader type theme. And this is kind of embarrassing for me to admit, but like this truck is so lifted that I struggled to get the hood back down because it was hard for me to reach. So I guess that you want to be pretty tall if you're gonna be working under the hood with this truck. But coming down below here, you guys can see with the little bit of reinforcement they've added. Now this has what appears to be about a 6-inch lift, roughly. As you guys can see, rough country, and this actually has rough country's adjustable shocks. So you guys can see right here how you can change the shocks to be firmer or softer, which is actually really cool because most lifted diesels don't have adjustable shocks. Typically what they'll do is just some basic like Fox shocks or something like that, but this system being fully adjustable means that it rides a heck of a lot better compared to a lot of other lifted diesels out and about in the world. Now for the tire and wheel setup, it's 37 by 12.5 by 20, which I feel like looks fantastic. I'm not a fan of people doing 22s on HD trucks. Like the truck's big enough for it to like work aesthetically, but 20s I feel like is the sweet spot in terms of like the biggest size you should go with a wheel if you're gonna do an HD, because we still have a ton of sidewall here on these tires, as you can see. So if we take a few steps back, again, you can see the wheels, they're very prominent, but on top of that, you have these like big, beefy looking tires, and so it all comes together and it looks really good. You guys can see we've got our Go Rhino side steps there, and then of course we've got the bed side step. Look how big the leaf springs are on the Sierra, it's crazy. And then you guys can see with the adjustable shocks there in the back as well. And I always find it hysterical just how big the stock exhaust tip is. Notice we actually have a diff cover as well, which if you are into off-roading, you know that that's actually pretty dang important. It obviously looks cool, but also like practicality so that you don't damage anything if you do take your truck off-road. And you guys can see there with the shock there in the rear. And also this differential is just massive. Like it's like 2 times the size of someone's head. It's absolutely crazy. This one does come with the multi-pro tailgate. It also has a tonneau cover there. And then a quick refresher on the interior before we take this out and see how this drives and see if all this fancy, expensive lift stuff actually works from a driving perspective. The AT4 interior is pretty cool because you got like brown accenting behind the seat storage. And then you guys can see with the cup holders, heated seats, and look at the floor mats. Then popping to the front. Same thing with the seats, so really nice leather. As you can see, it also says AT4 there on the headrest, which is definitely fun. Now getting in is quite a bit, so you gotta like stretch up your leg quite a bit and then grab the grab handle and like, yeah, don't skip leg day if you buy this truck. That's all I gotta say. And then you saw this version of the gauge cluster. Now for the 2024 model year, I do want to mention this gauge cluster could potentially change because Chevy just announced, I can't talk apparently, the 2024 Chevy Silverado HD, which has the new like gauge cluster infotainment system. So like, it sounds like this is going to be the gauge cluster infotainment system for 2020 through 2023. Got the camera mirror, panoramic sunroof here at the top. We've got cool features like heated and cooled seats. You got hill descent control as well. You got that to turn on like the outlets. And then of course, being a diesel, you got like, you know, trailer brake controls, diesel exhaust brake, you know, the normal practical tow stuff, wireless phone charging, pad, massive center console as well. So again, you can see really nice interior, and it's got one of these. It's got a column shifter so that you feel like you're doing something substantial when you put it into gear. But let's take this out, drive it, and see if this drives as good as it looks. So let's talk about visibility before we set off in the Goliath. You guys can see visibility of the hood with the heads-up display. Both of the mirrors are still have blind spot monitoring. And then throughout the rest of the rear. And let's set off. So setting off in this monstrosity of a diesel truck. This thing's pretty cool, let me tell you. As soon as I saw this, I was like, you know what? I have got to review this thing, because I've seen a lot of lifted AT4s, but I've never seen a lifted AT4 with adjustable shocks. So I'm curious to see how this drives. First off, this is exceptionally smooth. Wow. Let's see what the tire pressure is set at. Actually, let's see. Was that fuel economy there? Best 23 miles per gallon, but average 10.3. Okay. Oh, there we go. So the tires are actually set at a pretty relatively high pressure in the 60s, because with 37s, I mean 20-inch wheels, that is going to make it so you're going to be higher PSI slightly, but with 37s you'll typically be at, you know, somewhere in the 40s, 30s roughly. I don't know why that minivan was driving so slow, but you know what, we gotta deal with it. The biggest thing though is like this ride quality, again, despite the fact that the tire pressure is so high with this setup, is so smooth. Like, this drives, and you guys know, like, I've reviewed a ton of luxury cars over the last year. This drives like a luxury car. That is so crazy. Like, I don't feel like I'm driving a heavy duty pickup truck. Like, yes, it's massive. I have this huge king of the road like presence, and I mean, this thing definitely takes up like a lot of the road because it is enormous. But wow, this rides really well for what it, I mean, for how big the leaf springs are. And I don't even know if the shocks are on like the smoothest setting either. That's the cool thing about adjustable shocks. You can play around with it and figure out, you know, what rides better, what rides worse, all that fun stuff. But I'm super impressed with this. This has got to be the best lifted, you know, GM truck that I've ever driven, Sierra and Silverado. It gets a lot of looks. I've noticed that people just stare at this thing because it's huge. It is absolutely enormous. Yeah, I'm gonna get like a little acceleration here. I mean, yeah, it does not struggle at all to move these 37s, which I didn't expect it to, because again, it's got freaking 910 pound-feet of torque. I love how I can just go up any curb and just like, whatever. Don't worry, that is technically a driveway, but the point that I'm trying to make is this thing's a monstrosity. I love it. So yeah, this thing looks amazing. I love the color choice too. Like the red exterior color on this with the bronze wheels, I think looks fantastic. Again, doing the 20s rather than 22s, really, really good job. The extra sidewall will help out with ride quality, and the adjustable shocks help out a massive amount. Now, if you guys don't know, the GM HD trucks actually have independent front suspension, unlike Rams and Fords, and so that definitely does help out with their overall, you know, ride quality as it just stands. But still, this is really good. So yeah, I mean, this is a cool truck. So if you happen to have the money to afford a lifted diesel, this might be the one to go for, this setup. And if you want one that's already done, again, The Cadillac here in Provo has this one. Let me know what you guys think about it. That's because something's up for our video on this AT4 Goliath. Again, a huge shout out and thank you to the Provo Cadillac for giving me some time with this truck. Check out the inventory in the description down below. If you have any questions whatsoever, just ask for Craig. I'll see you guys.